Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that's a bit different because it's how has it affected the game. And who's sending that one?
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that. Oh, you. So I mean, we'll mention him just so he's happy of it, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I always get confused when you say you because I don't know if it's you.
Yeah, I don't know
it's...
I don't know what the deal with his name is, but anyway.
Yeah, well,
Logic not taking my question. Come on.
Hey,
I also watched a screenshot of that. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Travelers Podcast, Episode 4. My name is Logic Mage.
I'm Super QGS.
And I'm Rambler.
Today, we're also joined by SlippyIceHero.
Hey, I'm Slippy.
So, as you
might
know, Slippy was the one that we were trying to hunt down and prevent from accessing the monument and the wall that we built around spawn.
Yeah, it's pretty funny to have him here today, just because we were so diametrically opposed to each other during that time. But you know, it's all in good fun. So, welcome to the Travelers, Slippy.
Yeah, that was an impressive wall you guys built to stop me.
Thank you. And we're gonna ask you a bit more about your perspective on that later in the podcast. But our first topic for today is the recent Sunday community events.
Yeah, so I guess it would be 2 Sundays ago by the time this comes out, but we did a Minecraft live stream over on my channel. We had people from the Travelers community hop on, and we had a couple people from outside also hop on. But it was supposed to be like an event to like help, you know, do stuff with the community. We're kind of in the down period right now with like the puzzle and whatnot, and it was fun in my opinion. But I wanted to ask if everyone would want to keep doing this. This is like, you know, anyone watching this that might have been there. Would you want to make that like a consistent thing, or?
I'd love to, personally. Whether that be related to the Travelers at all, or even just outside of that, with games that a lot of people tend to enjoy.
Yeah, I would be interested in that too. I thought it was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed popping into that stream. It was fun.
Yeah, so I personally would like to have one the day after this podcast comes out. I'm not quite sure what we would be doing, but I'd like to try to have one the day after this podcast comes out, and then if we could keep doing it consistently, that would be great. So
that would be really cool. Would it mostly be Minecraft, or what kind of events could there be?
Logic mentioned that maybe we could do like a, you know, kind of like a meet up at Spawn and Travelers. We could do stuff like that. We could play other games, like, you know, kind of try to hop on like popular stuff that people might have. So like personally, I did a like Fall Guys stream last week. I mean, I'm not sure how many people have it. I know YouTube personally don't have it, but like stuff like that. Like, it's popular right now. It's likely people have it. Or like Among Us. Like, it's cheap. It's popular right now. People might have it. So like stuff like that. But Minecraft, I thought, was a great first option because it's Minecraft. Like, everyone has Minecraft. So
yeah.
Another idea. I'll go. Another idea I had was doing a Travelers community Kahoot, where it'd feel like, you know, it'd be about lore in the game and about specific details for events and such. I think that could be pretty funny for all the nerds out there studying this stuff.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd definitely join in on that.
Yeah, also if you have any suggestions for types of community events, comment those too. We're open to anything. Something
really cool this week was Super showed off some very rough screenshots of the beginnings of a Travelers HD mod, which is pretty funny. So it works based off of the Perlin noise generator that the game uses, and it displays like the biomes in a very unique way, let's just say.
Yeah, maybe you could put that on screen, I guess. So this all started when Lightning was... So I made a free cam mod where basically you can use WASD to go around where you basically do like just no clip through the world. It wouldn't like it would just send you where the generation was. It wouldn't send you any actual game objects. But then Lightning saw that and tried to create his own, and he discovered that you could change it by decimals, and it would go in between the tiles. And so that made me start thinking about what that could be used for, which is one, the HD mod. So basically, every tile is going to be like 10 by 10 pixels, and I can make it even more than that if I wanted to. So you can do a lot of cool stuff with that. But I've been messing around with it since then. So not only can you make like a smooth image, but you could also do some stuff like zooming in and out with the free cam or stuff like that, which would be really interesting to see.
Every time we experiment with this game, it seems like it's so much more modular than we originally thought. So it's very exciting to see what people are going to come up with in the future.
Definitely. I think there's a lot of things I could do with using a canvas instead of a normal element grid, but I think that would be a lot of fun to mess around with.
Something else that came up this week was a strange run-in with a person named Eduro. He seems to have a few accounts that are kind of roaming around spawn. One of them being named 500 by 500. And they have this weird copy pasta that I guess we can put up on the screen. I think we had it last time, but this is sort of an update on that. And it's something with Enlist in the Legion, join Team Eduro, something's Great Conquest. Yeah, it's all very strange.
It's very strange, and they seem to be actively recruiting people, so keep an eye out, maybe.
Another thing that has been subjected to balance changes recently is how XP works because of Allocator's recent jump up the leaderboard. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I think that people have been killing alternate accounts to get XP, and it gives off a lot of XP. Maybe someone else can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, so from what I understand of it, is that there were probably like around level 90 alts that he had. I guess he had a few of them. And if you just killed them repeatedly until it got to 0, or not 0, but like level 1, then it would grant you like millions of XP. Like, depending, like if you had enough accounts, it would grant you like millions of XP. But you need to like grind them out to a pretty high level. But yeah, killing them gives you a huge yield, I guess.
And so recently a few players have been doing this, and I think they've been nerfed a bit and probably will be continued to be nerfed so that players won't be able to at least as easily farm other accounts and grind them to funnel XP towards one big account.
Yeah, I personally think this is problematic to have that be farmable like that, because it causes the leaderboard to be super unstable. And in such like a stable, slow game, gigantic jumps like that, able to be farmed every couple months is kind of iffy, especially considering you could start a whole bunch of accounts, grind them out. Say you got 10 accounts grinding out, you would get you got them level 90 in a month and a half, and then you get 10 million XP or something along those lines. At least from what I understand of it. And that's pretty crazy, in my opinion.
As you guys were talking about that whole thing, I actually looked up PFG's leaderboard history for that. It's just, you can see the raw data on how the leaderboard worked right then. He gained about 2 million EXP in the course of about an hour. So that was enough to bump him up from around 6 on the leaderboard up to 2nd, I think. I believe he's...
Do you mean PFG or do you mean Alec?
Alec, yeah.
I was like, wait, PFG was number 6? What happened?
No, sorry. I should have specified. But yeah, it was a huge jump and it absolutely needed addressing because it is technically an exploit.
And then Lightning was using it a bit, but it seems his account got bricked somehow and he can't get into it. He was aiming to overtake PFG because PFG's account is also bricked right now and he can't get into it. But now they're both locked in place, I guess. So that's interesting, but...
Wait, is PFG's account still bricked? I thought that might have been fixed.
I think it's still bricked.
Here, let's check out the leaderboard. Just to double check. I thought it was bricked until the combat update. Or not combat.
Oh, okay, yeah. His account is on bricked, actually.
Biggest thing to happen within the community this week was Super's Reddit post on the r/MMORPG subreddit. So it was the top post for I think at least a day, and it brought in a lot of new people, and we reached new record highs in terms of player count for the game, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, I think I was actually talking about starting out drafting the Reddit post in the last episode of the podcast. And I think it got a lot of attention. It got a lot more attention than I thought it would. And I'm really happy about that. I hope that a lot of the players stick around. I think we've had a few new people come onto the Discord, but it would be cool to see people stick around and enjoy the game and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're a new player and you're listening to this right now, welcome to the Travelers. It's nice to see you here.
A little behind the scenes, I actually got in a bit of trouble with the mods because they thought that I was making an advertisement on behalf of Taragadude when I had written like 90% of that before Taragadude ever really saw it. So they kind of thought that Taragadude had written it and gave it to me to then send, but they were pretty cool about it after I told them that no, I just really like the game.
All right, so our first and only viewer question this week, we're bringing it up now because it's relevant, was from you, King? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Anyhow, his question, which was sent as we were recording this, by the way, was how has the recent influx of players, which is referring to the Reddit post, affected the game? So we can talk a bit about that.
In my opinion, it hasn't affected the game too much yet. Like, we were having higher player numbers, and that's good, obviously, and we've seen a few new faces around, but I think a lot of them are still probably playing, like, catch-up with, like, the puzzle and whatnot. So I think it might be a bit before any new players do anything significant, but the ones I've talked to have all been nice, so that's good.
One thing I've noticed is it's made spawn a little bit more dangerous. Whenever there's a big influx of players, just more people joining means more people around that area that might find things. So you can normally, most of the time, just park an alt at spawn and not worry about it. Even if it's like 100 away from 0-0, people just like won't go near it. But that is not the case whenever there's a big influx of players, because they will find it and loot it and kill it. So the main difference that I've seen so far, at least, has been just spawn's a bit more dangerous for a while, until everyone kind of funnels out and goes into the rest of the world. I think down the line, though, just every new player is a potential permanent member of the Travelers community. So I think that hopefully this gives us some more hardcore members down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely will get some hardcore members, but yeah, they gotta play catch up and participate in the puzzle, get their feet on the ground. But yeah, I definitely think we'll see new people like actively like participating more and more as we go, because they do seem interested, which is good.
Yeah, that's great.
Definitely.
So Slippy, we've already had an episode entirely dedicated to talking about the process of making the wall and, like, you know, making sure that you wouldn't be able to access the monument. But we're really curious to see kind of what you have to say about just being in the middle of all that and seeing the whole wall just being there and trying to stop you from getting inside.
So that was actually a lot of fun to see you guys building that during the week. I had been completely unaware of it for a few days, but then once the 2 account suicides happened, I realized that something was up, and also Allocator was saying stuff about Spawn, and because he was being a double agent at the time. So I had explored Spawn on one of my alts called Uganda Knuckles, and I came across one of the chippers, had a discussion about it, and went on my way.
I remember that. Actually, let's see if I can find the screenshot for that, because I actually saved that.
Yeah, we'll put that up too. I remember seeing that and just being very confused.
I thought it was a random new player that was just messing around.
Yeah, it genuinely seemed like that to me too.
I know that no one likes that, so I always choose that to go with for an alt, because everyone's gonna hate it and be totally confused.
But did you also find like our chipper headquarters?
I have never come across that.
Okay, because Alec left a sign there with a smiley face on it, and we were sure that it was you at the time. Not you as in the player, but you as in SlippyIceHero.
I have not been near spawn with my main account though. I'm less than half a day's travel away from there. What I was planning to do, which I never got around to doing, was have like a group of bots go up to the wall and start tearing it down to all simultaneously for like a day and then teleport in at night when you guys weren't around.
That's a good idea. We actually had like a whole system in place where we would have like surveillance accounts like placed around so that we could see anywhere on the wall all at once. And then we're going to have like attack accounts that would be on the outside of the wall. So if anyone is standing next to the wall, we can attack them. We had this whole plan. It was, kind of sad we never got to kill you, but that's all right.
It'd be pretty good to have some accounts near the monument, especially around there, because if a high range teleport, I could get in quickly.
A high range teleport we really wouldn't have any defense against because of the security on the inside of the monument.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to get in there safely, for whatever reason, that's probably the best way to do it.
High range in and high range out. Because when you high range out, they won't necessarily know which direction you go. But we've also talked about that for like 2 podcasts. So moving on to another recent controversy in the Travelers.
This is the sort of main topic I really want to spend a while discussing here. So, just a quick recap for anyone who's not in the loop. About a week from now when we were recording this, Taraga Dude, the developer, went toward the wall on his main with an admin tool called an auto breaker, which allows him to break walls immediately, and he just started chipping away at it. Like it was, I think his intent was just to poke a few holes in it, but he ended up removing like around half of the actual thing, and it's like, and we started noticing this just a couple days into it. Like I think Slippy actually was commenting on the stream we were doing for Minecraft, and he was talking about, I can't find the wall anywhere. Why is it like, I should be where the wall is, but it's just not here. And it turns out it's because he just was chipping away at it, like block by block. And the thing is, without tools, each wall takes 2 hours to break. So he was just kind of breaking them exponentially faster than a normal player should have been able to do. And eventually, when some of us confronted him about it in the Discord, he kind of reacted and said, well, just be glad that I didn't remove the whole thing. So maybe one of you guys can kind of talk a little bit more about why we kind of reacted in a negative way to this.
Yeah, first I would also like to clarify that I feel like the main root of the problem is pretty much solved. We've had a discussion on the Discord and stuff, and he's agreed that like even what he considers to be a small action is still like an admin action and should be transparent and maybe open to discussion and things like that. So we have had that discussion, which I feel pretty satisfied with. It does kind of stink that we weren't able to have that discourse before the action was taken, but I am happy with kind of how things are now, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. We don't like have any drama that's still going on. It's kind of mostly resolved, but I do want to talk a little bit more about what those actions kind of mean for the future of the game, and what a little bit more about the meaning of what anarchy kind of implies to a game like this. Brian, could you go in a bit more in depth about why the auto breaker specifically was kind of just reacted, or people didn't like it so much?
Yeah, so there was a negative reaction to the auto breaker. Obviously, like I think we all knew he had admin tools, and I think he claimed afterwards that this is the only admin tool. I don't know how true that is, but apparently the only admin tool is an auto breaker, and which is not a problematic item necessarily, but it was used to an extent that was a little insane. Like, if I'm remembering correctly, Taragadude ended up completely removing the west and south, or no, the west and the north wall, just completely wiped it off the map, and which is a lot, and it would have taken probably I don't even know how long it would have taken to
Weeks. It
do
would have
that.
taken weeks just with a couple of vaults. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have taken weeks to do it, and considering and here's something he said afterwards that kind of bothered me a little bit, is he said it took him 2 hours with the auto breaker to do what he did. If you're spending 2 hours at a player's structure taking things down, I feel like that should have been a sign that maybe it was a little overboard, because it's such a powerful item, and it took down so much of the wall in 2 hours, when normally it would have taken weeks. Like, I feel like an item like that has to be used sparingly, and it wasn't at all, so...
I think what really bothered me about the whole situation was that this was after he had promised that he would not remove the wall. He would only poke the little access holes in it. But then he just kind of went back on that promise with the whole auto breaker thing.
Well, just to play kind of devil's advocate, he didn't necessarily promise. He said that until a new player complained, then he would keep the wall.
Oh, that's true.
However, I like the way that, you know, he kind of proposes a solution, and then there's discourse, and then we can kind of, both the developer and the players can kind of agree on what a good action to take would be. And I feel like there are some actions that would have been better to take that would have come out of discourse. For example, maybe don't use the auto breaker to completely get rid of the thin parts of the wall, but instead maybe poke holes occasionally, even every 30 blocks, so that you're always gonna have like a hole on screen that you can see, so you can easily get through it. Or maybe put something in the game, like a hint even, that is around the wall, so even though it's a player structure, you could have a hint that says like go to the axis to go around the wall or something like that. I don't know. I feel like there could have been a better way that would be open to discourse, which was, I think, is the main thing that we resolved now, because with transparency, discourse is going to come out of that, and then better solutions are going to come out of discourse. Something that really irked me that I don't think is a problem anymore, but I just wanted to bring it up, is when I sent a screenshot of what the boat looked like. The boat blueprints. Slight spoiler, by the way. Sorry. And how there's a bit of a wall around it, but you know it would be really hard to surround the whole thing in walls. And I was like, oh, it'd be interesting if someone surrounded the whole thing in walls, because that would be like, if someone surrounded the boat blueprint in walls, then that would add some interesting gameplay effects, because maybe only certain accounts could then craft boats, so it would make boats rarer, or maybe you would have to teleport in order to get the boat blueprint, or things like that. But then Taragadude was kind of like, oh, if there's a wall, then I'll just come over and poke some holes in it with my auto breaker. And that was kind of that irked me quite a bit, because I was like, if the players do anything, then you're gonna poke holes in it. Like, what's the point of building anything if you're gonna poke holes in it with an auto breaker?
Right. So the main meat of the topic I really want to get into here, because I think there's a lot of potential discussion that could come out of this, is we want to talk about the meaning of anarchy. So the Travelers MMO from the beginning has always been labeled as an anarchy game. So I'm going to go ahead and read off the definition of anarchy right now, just to kind of start things off. Anarchy is described as a state of disorder due to absence or non-recognition of authority. So what this means for an anarchy game is that there are typically very few rules that players themselves have to abide by socially. Of course, this being a game, there always has to be rules, you know. You can't just suddenly say, okay, well, I want 9,000 sticks, or I just want all the best items in the game right away. You can't say that. There always has to be rules that define what a player can or can't do. But in this case, anarchy is a way of the developer saying, here's the tools that you have, here's some creative things you can do with them. Um, let's see what you can do just with that.
So personally, when I think of anarchy, I go back to 2B2T, or Two Builders, Two Tools, a lot, which is an anarchy Minecraft server. Within that game, it's pretty much the same concept of you have the tools to do whatever you want. There's predefined rules, and like as a game, Minecraft has limits. It has rules. It has various things, and I can very clearly see where where he pulled from 2B2T because I played it for so long in the past. You're able to do pretty much anything on 2B2T until the admin or game literally limits you into not being able to do the action, whether that's through an update or, like, in the case of Minecraft, like a plugin or something to help further limit things. So technically, even the, like, predefined rules of, oh, you can only get, like, one stick from a tree or something, like, technically, in the Travelers and with 2B2T, you can break those rules, like those fundamental rules, until it's cracked down upon, and it needs to be fixed. I think that's interesting to say that there's predefined rules, because to some extent it's true, but it's not. You don't even necessarily have to follow the predefined rules if you can find a way around it, which I think is a very interesting concept.
Right. There being an administrator that's kind of keeping tabs over everything, in and of itself is sort of a betrayal of what the concept of the game is having to be. But at the same time, if you don't have that person who's just making sure everything is going smoothly and that people aren't completely breaking the game for others, then the game suffers as a result. So you need to have that balance of, a person with more power than the average player, making sure everything is running smoothly, versus player creativity to bend the game in such a way that they can influence it in a significant way.
I feel like there's a huge disconnect in between developers and players. Or maybe I shouldn't say huge, but there is a disconnect because when you're playing the game, like us building a giant superstructure, that was fun, it was great, and but from a developer's standpoint, that can't happen. Like, even though it was a good time, it was a fun time, it just, that's kind of lost there. And, like, the translation from player to developer. Like, I'm sure Teragadude, like, understands that, like, that was fun or whatnot, but at the same time, he's disconnected from the gameplay. And he's can't ever really be a player, if that makes sense. And I think that's why it's important to have like discussion with the players themselves before doing other actions, because he'll never be a player in the game. He's an important part of the game, and he's great to talk to and whatnot, but he's not a player.
Yeah,
It's
you need
just
to give him feedback based on what you think needs to be changed or what needs to be fixed, because he can't know that based on his role as the administrator.
and it's just a different lens too, because we're looking at the game through, okay, we're here to play the game, and if a player sees an exploit or something that's maybe not intended, then and it's fun, it doesn't matter to the player, but it does matter to the developer, because the developer has their own vision for the game, and they can see, for example, a giant wall around spawn and say, that's not how the game was designed to be played. That's not. Bases were designed to be small structures where you could store items, not giant superstructures that can be built around spawn. But for us, that's a really cool way for us to take a mechanic that's not necessarily for that and use it for something greater that's really cool. And I do agree with all the nerfs and things like that. But something I would like also to touch on is kind of the idea of predefined rules. Because let's say in real life, let's say you have an anarchist country or society or something. There's not going to be any laws, but there's still laws of physics. you can do whatever you want, but you still can't defy gravity without the proper, forces applied to you. So the game logic kind of takes the place of those real life physics. But the thing about game logic is that it's not as flawless as real life physics. So you kind of need someone to do balance changes or things like that to fix the game logic because the physics isn't perfect. So it's kind of the predefined rules kind of shift slightly because when you join the game, updates happen and the rules will slightly shift to kind of fit what the vision is. However, I also feel like it can shift too much to where the predefined rules are broken by updates. So, for example, we were given tools to work with, like wooden walls and things like that, and then we had sledgehammers, axes, things like that. And then I feel like the auto breaker kind of breaks the predefined rules because we were given rules to work with, and we use those rules. And in a certain way, the auto breaker is kind of fixing the rules back to the vision, but in a certain way it's also defying what the predefined rules allowed us to do. So I'm kind of conflicted there.
Yeah, it's a very complex problem, and I'm sure that not everyone's going to agree with what we're saying here, but yeah, it's a really good comparison, Super.
So with the anarchy societies, I've noticed that there tends to be a lot of social rules that are unspoken and no one wants them to be broken, and it's really bad if they do. With the players and the developer, the players have their own social rules for like what a developer can and cannot do. Because if we can't do what the developer can do, then he can easily destabilize what our gameplay will be like. And with players, we can do stuff that people disagree with, like how I had withheld puzzle information that caused a group to build a massive structure around spawn to stop me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because actions that piss people off or whatever, those aren't necessary. Those don't necessarily harm the game in any specific way because you might, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So people could see that and then they could say, oh, this guy is being really coy and he's, just kind of being all smug because he's got the little puzzle piece and we don't. So let's work together and do this thing to mess him up. So, of course, the wall is a very extreme example of that. I think Lightning and some other people had a plot to sort of like make all these botnets that would like seek out the walls and break them all down. But Taragadude sort of interrupted the natural gameplay flow of that. So, yeah, that was kind of influenced by that whole decision.
Yeah, I would have preferred if players had made their own bots to take down the wall. Like, I had a small one that I would occasionally run that would poke holes that were like 5 wide here and there, but they never got to doing that much.
I would have even probably joined a coordinated effort to poke holes in the wall, or even put signs around the wall telling players to seek the axis and things like that. I do think that having a player-led move is going to be better most of the time than having a developer do it, because I think the developer is put under higher scrutiny. So kind of what's building off of what Slippy said, like Slippy could get a puzzle element and then not share stuff and everyone would be mad at him. But that's part of the game. So that's within the game's rules. So everyone's going to be, like fake mad. We're going to build a wall around spawn, but it's not actually, there's no power imbalance. But with Taragadude, there's kind of two sides of this because when he does something, you can't really be mad at him because like it's his game, it's his vision, kind of what he says goes. But at the same time, it kind of breaks the natural rules of things. So, like another player would have had to kind of make a plan and get some alts and sledgehammers and coordinate an effort to break down the wall. And I feel like the wall, there might be fighting over that or might be helping over that or things like that. It's a different dynamic than the developer, because I think the developer is more scrutinized, but also has more power and is scrutinized for that power. I don't know.
I think that brought up an interesting point of it breaking the natural flow of the game because he did the action. I think that brings up the thought of how long should the developer wait before making a move? Because clearly there were plans in place to start taking down the wall. And I think that's interesting. Like, how long should he have waited to see what the player response actually was? Because I think if he would have waited like a week, maybe two, there would have been like significant like damage to the wall, personally. But
Actually, I do feel the need to bring this up, but the reason that that whole action that he took was instigated was because he showed the game to a real life acquaintance of his, and he was turned off immediately when he got near the monument, got blocked by the wall because he didn't actually know how to interact with it or why it was there, and then he stopped playing. So that was a real interaction he had, and that was sort of like you saw that in real time, and he went, oh well, this must be a huge problem for new players because they're gonna get turned off by this immediately. So yeah, in his defense, that is a valid reason for wanting to look into fixing some of the problems the wall has. But again, he did it without any interaction from the player base, and that's what caught a lot of us off guard.
I do think I have a few things to say about this. I do think that someone being kind of quitting the game because of the wall is a very, very big problem that does make me really sad. Because any new player, the Travelers is already kind of a niche thing to get into. You kind of have to give it a shot, and then it'll show you how good it is. But to most people, it's a text game. It's like people like graphics, people like shiny things, people. Unless they give it a chance, then they're not going to be enthralled by the gameplay loop, and they're not going to get into the game. And every new player is a potential, like I said earlier, like hardcore member of the Travelers. So if you have something that is turning people away from the Travelers so early on, because they're already like, this is kind of a weird text game. I like text games personally, but it is a more niche thing. Then the wall is definitely something that could stop new players, which is an awful thing. However, a few things I would like to say is I don't know how common this is because we have had a lot of new players since the wall with the forum post, and I haven't heard them really talk about the wall. Now, I don't know. The wall might have been broken down before the forum post. I'm not sure when exactly that happened. But I've also had a lot of friends join the Travelers. They didn't have too much issues with the walls. And it kind of makes me think, if you got like a long journey from the monument to the sepulcher, then that's going to take some figuring out. That's kind of a large adjustment. I think that going around the wall might be a large another thing too. Like if they can't go around the wall, then maybe they wouldn't be able to get to the sepulcher, and maybe the Travelers isn't the game for them. So maybe it's another thing, kind of like how going to the sepulcher is a test, maybe going into the wall is a test. But you really don't want the players to be tested right away. You want them to get into the game and then be tested.
Yeah, especially when they're still getting used to like the movement and such, because it's very unorthodox in that factor.
And this is something I think is mainly resolved at this point. The main thing that our discussion with Taragadude was that we wanted transparency, which he has given us. And he said that even if there's a small move in the future, he's going to be transparent about it. Because the thing about transparency is that it spawns discourse, and the thing about discourse is it spawns positive, better solutions. So I really think that we're looking very good going forward. I don't know if I have a lot more to add on to that, but that's just my thought on it.
With new players joining the game, from a game design standpoint, the more they have to leave the game to Google something, to look stuff up that they don't know how to do, that's less time that they are playing the game and more chances for them to want to not play the game. So you want to make it as clear as possible to a new player when they first join the game.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I just think that with discourse, we could have come up with. We've got a lot of people in this community. I think we could have come up with a solution. Maybe we could try a player coordinated effort to break holes in the wall. Definitely in the thin walls, that would be pretty easy to do. The thick walls we might need an auto breaker for that, for example. But then also maybe like text saying, go to the Axis, there's holes there or something. You could spice it up, make it part of the lore or something like that. I feel like could have been figured out with discourse to find a better solution. So I'm really happy about the current change.
I just, like, kind of, my, like, main thought on all of this is, if you're in that position of power, you need to be more transparent. Like, it's not, like, a real option for you not to be transparent. Like, again, going back to when I was on 2B2 team, we had to deal with Housemaster, and he was the least considerate, refused to explain things. He just didn't care, and he had that disconnect because he wasn't a player. Like, he didn't care about what the actual problems were. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times he actually walked back like a bad decision due to like players disagreeing with it. It was always he just did something, didn't explain it, and didn't care what people said. And I think that's a horrible philosophy to have when you're the one in that power seat. Like, I feel like you need to be open to discussion. Even if at the end of the discussion, like Taraga dude, if he had a discussion, still disagreed with us and still did whatever he want, I would feel a lot better about that than if he just did whatever he wanted without saying anything. Like, personally, I feel like being open and honest is the only real option to having like a healthy player admin interaction in this type of scenario.
I really agree with that.
So, does anyone else have any other points to bring up?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been the Travelers Podcast, Episode 4. On behalf of everyone here, thank you for listening. Thank you especially to Slippy for joining us today.
See ya!
Yeah, we'll see you next time.